All right, so we're going to practice with fractions and mixed numbers. We're going to start out with adding and subtracting proper fractions. Here's a couple of steps that we're going to follow in order to do that correctly. One thing that you want to make sure is you want to make sure that all fractions in the problem have the same denominator. And you all are following along as I do. You're going to be writing whatever I write. If you need to pause the video, do that and then come back. You can even replay it. Add or subtract the numerators once you get those to be the same, and keep the denominator the same, and then you'll simplify. So let's look at these two. You've got a 3 and a 5. I need to make them have the same denominator, so I'm going to multiply this by 5 over 5 and this one by 3 over 3 so that I can get the same denominator. 1 times 5 is 5. 3 times 5 is 15. 2 times 3 is 6. 5 times 3 is 15. They have the same denominators. So then I follow step 2. It says add or subtract the numerators. Since this is plus, it's 5 plus 6 is 11. And I leave the denominator the same. No number besides 1 goes into both 11 and 15, so that's my final answer. For this one, I've got a 4 and a 6. 12 is actually the least common denominator that I can use there. So I'm going to multiply this by 3 over 3 and this by 2 over 2. I'll get 9 twelfths. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 3 is 12. 5 times 2 is 10. 6 times 2 is 12. When I add those together, because this is adding, I'm going to get 19 over 12. Then it says to simplify. 12 will go into 19 one time with 7 left over, and I'll get 1 and 7 twelfths. Please ignore that. Here I've got two numbers. The common denominator would be 10. I'm going to multiply this one by 5 over 5 and this one by 2 over 2. I'll get 5 tenths and 4 tenths here because 2 times 2 is 4. 5 times 2 is 10. When I subtract that, I'm going to get 1 tenth because this is subtraction. 5 minus 4 is 1. Leave the denominator the same. And here, the common denominator here would be 6. So I'm going to multiply by 2 over 2 and 3 over 3. 1 times 2 is 2 over 6 minus 3 over 6. Now here's where it gets a little interesting because we're talking about now it's going to be, because I can't do 2 minus 3 in the old way of thinking, but I certainly can when we've talked about integers. This would be negative 1/6 because 2 minus 3 is 1 because I do keep, change, change. So it would be 2 plus negative 3. I would get negative 1 over 6. Now I can use a calculator. Remember that that's been part of my thing. My plan B is to use a calculator. 1/3 though can't go into a calculator as is. If I did, I would get 1 divided by 3. That would be 0.3 repeating. 2/5 can go into a calculator. You'll get 0.4. So if I add 0.4, which I know I get 0.73 repeating. Now, if it was given to me in a fraction, I need to give an answer in a fraction. There's really no easy way for me to figure that out. Now, notice what this says. And I'm going to do 11 divided by 15. And I get that same answer, but I have to figure out somehow to get it back into a fraction. This one might not be easy. So we're going to put, for this one, not easy. For this one, I know what 3/4 is. That's 0.75. And if I add to that 5/6, unfortunately, 5/6 is also a repeater. So if I add to that 0.75, I get this 1.58333 repeating. Not easily done. So again, But I can kind of check and make sure, does this kind of make sense? This is a little over 1.5. Is this a little over 1.5? Yeah, cool. It's still not easy to be done on a calculator itself. Let's see about this one. 1/2, that's 0.5 we know. Subtract from it 2/5, which would be 0.4. I get 0.1. Well, now that's cool because I can put the 1 underneath the decimal point, a 0 under here, and I'll get 1/10, as we talked about before. So that one's good. For this one, 1/3 minus 1/2, I'm going to put that 1/3 in again. I'm going to subtract from it 0.5. I get this, negative 0.16666 repeating. Now I can guess and check. Now I happen to know that 0.16 repeating is 1/6. So because it's negative 0.16 repeating, I know, because I'm old and I've been doing this a long time, that I know that that's negative 1/16. So if you can convert it, you're good.